All right. Cool. So, the title of this session is Silence is Not Golden, and that you need to know what to say. And there's a handout that goes with this, which we're going to get to in a moment. Copies are available. And the point of this is, and I was thinking about this because I was putting together a list of all the things, all the training programs that I have for agents that are on my team that my business partners have, which is practically every day of the week, and including some Saturdays. The 80 plus live classes that EXP does, in addition to the classes that I do and my business partner does, in addition to the classes provided by the California Association of Realtors on how to use their form software, in addition to the classes that are provided by your local multiple listing service on how to use their software, in addition to the classes that are provided by Inside Real Estate so you can learn how to use KV Core. And do you understand that's not the entire list, right? It's not the entire list, right? We're just getting warmed up. So what oftentimes happens is people get into real estate, and particularly if you're doing this part-time, right? But even if you're doing this full-time and you're not used to studying for like a PhD thesis, and you get into real estate and you're just overwhelmed with all of this stuff that you're told you have to learn. And so then people sometimes just give up. They're like, there's just no way. I had a guy tell me he went to another real estate company, and he said the reason he went to them is because they said he didn't have to learn anything, right? He didn't have to know how to do anything, right? And well, that's not entirely true. But then what I started to think about is, what is the minimum that you need to know in order to launch a real estate career? The minimum, right? Like for example, could you do it without knowing how to use KV Core? Answer is yes. Yeah, you could do that, right? Could you do it with, so the MLS is one thing, but how about this? What you need to focus on is how and what to say to other people. You understand the process by which you will earn a commission begins with the step where you're having a conversation with people about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. If you blow that, if you can't do that, you're in big trouble, right? So the first thing you'd have to learn is how to handle those initial conversations. Then those will lead to appointments, or sometimes we just call consultations, but they're appointments. And that's another set of things you need to be able to say, right? Different things. And you need, so you one, have to know what to say. Two, you have to say it to enough people, right? In order to make money in real estate. So let's start with, what do you need to know what to say? Like, how about that? Where am I? I don't know. Where am I? How about, I think this looks like it. Silence is not golden. Everyone can see my screen, I hope. You've been given a copy of this document, I believe, haven't you? Right. So what kinds of scripts would a real estate agent need to, be good with? How about prospecting scripts? That's what we're kind of focusing on now, right? To some degree, right? Because there's common objections. We're really starting off with more sphere of influence and objections. Listing presentation scripts, buyer consultation scripts, open house scripts, and follow-up scripts, right? That's sort of your catalog, and you should practice them. Now, next week, we're going to have, and you're going to see references to a loan agent that I work with, Jody Hatano with Golden One Credit Union. And one of my recommendations for somebody who's relatively new to real estate is to partner with a good loan agent. Jody is a good loan agent. And the difference between, well, her and you and me is because she does this more times a day than we do. You understand? If you wanted to be a great musician, you would have to practice, practice, and practice. right? Isn't that right? If you wanted to be a good, just about anything, actor, actress, you'd need to practice your lines. And the tool that real estate agents have to work with is our mouths, right? It's the words that we say, right? Like the carpenter might have hammers and saws. We've got metaphors and open-ended questions, right? We have our own tools. You need to be good at them. You might want to think about an elevator script. And there's really two kinds of elevator scripts. There's the what's happening in the market elevator script, which we're going to talk about. And then there is tell me what you do elevator script. And if you're wondering why is it called an elevator script, is it because it lifts you up? And the answer is no, not really. But it's if you were in an elevator with somebody and they saw your name badge, which of course you're all wearing, right? You're all wearing something that would identify you as being in real estate, because remember, the starting of the process of you making money is to have a conversation. And if people know that you're in real estate, might they even initiate a conversation? Say, hey, I see you're in real estate, so what's going on in this market? What do you do? What's your specialty? Right? It would be good to think now how you're going to answer that question. Maybe write it out, practice it a few times, say it aloud so it comes out smoothly. You don't want to start, sweating and wiggling around and, slapping the side, you don't want to do that, right? Because this conversation, and this is the way you ought to look at all of the conversations you have as a real estate agent, those conversations are also called job interviews. You understand? This is a job interview when they ask you, so what do you do? What do you specialize in? What's your thing? Right? This is a job interview. How do you handle it? So if you're going to put together, one of the elevator speech, a mini presentation, how about this? It's a presentation, it's a short, right? It's a short presentation. There would be an introduction, a value proposition, right? Target audience. By the way, value propositions, you'll see I have some samples of those, plus Google has a few of them. You might want to have different ones for different kinds of properties. First-time home buyers versus luxury properties with a call to action. And you can see there, I put in a sample. Hi, I'm John, a real estate agent. I focus on helping first-time home buyers find their dream home. I specialize in the downtown area. I can help you navigate competitive market to find a property that fits your needs and budget. Ready to start your home buying journey? Let's schedule a consultation today. Right? It's got all of the elements. Right? Now, what is, of course, the question? There's, the big question that they're going to ask you. And the question is, this is particularly at the beginning of the conversation, is, so how's the real estate market? How is it? Now, if you say, remember, think job interview. And if you say unbelievable, right, you're not doing so well in this job interview. If you say always changing, yeah, that's nice, right? You're giving me nothing, right? So we want to handle it a little bit better. And one thing is we're going to need to know something about the real estate market. How about that? For example, in your area, do you know what the average sales price is? How about the median? Different for condos, townhomes, and single-family homes? Do you know the average days on market? Does it vary by price range? Does it vary by location? Does it vary by property type, single-family versus condos and townhomes? Do you know inventory levels? How many months of inventory? That's called the absorption rate do we have? How does that compare to what models say would make it a buyer or seller's market? Do you know? Right? The price per square foot, right? That's a useful thing to know when somebody says, I have a 2,000 square foot home in this. I was farming an area and I sent out this postcard and it said, call me. I'll give you the value of your house over the phone. Call me over the phone, CMA. Right? And so I was bored, I guess. And at that time, I had figured out that what the average dollars per square foot was for the 4 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms. And so when people would call me up and they would say, hey, can you can do this? And I'd say, sure. And then they would say, they would tell me what model they had and their address. And I would give them a number because I just multiplied by the average dollars per square foot. And it was really close. It was really close. Do you know that? Right? So that you could actually estimate somebody's house value. Mortgage interest rates, I don't keep up on them. I mean, you can't avoid hearing about them, but I rely on I rely on my loan agent Jody to tell me what's going on. But you ought to know roughly what they are. You're going to be asked. You're going to be asked. I guess I do look at them a bit because I get asked every once in a while, what are the current interest rates? And it's a difficult question to answer. Ask Jody next week, because it depends on your credit score and the location and the kind of property and the type of loan, and it varies a lot. Right? Demographic data, are people moving in and out? Is that what's happening in the neighborhood? And also price reductions and transactions falling through. So one of the things that real estate agents ought to know, and you can get some data, this is usually 30, like for example, it's, what is it? It is the 9th of March. So they don't have February's data yet. They have January's data. This is the California Association of Realtors, right? So about the 15th of March, they're going to have February's data, but they don't have last week's data. But you'll find if you go here and you click on these market reports and things like that, housing market overviews, that you're going to find there's information about every county and most of the major cities in a county. And when you look at it, it's going to give you some useful information. It might be a teensy bit old, but for example, this tells you, I use this in my presentations, 99 sales to list price ratio is 99% in LA County in January. People got pretty much what they were asking when they sold their house. However, 32.8% of all the listings had lowered their price. How would this, those of you who wish to try audience participation, how would those two numbers come up in a typical buyer consultation? Anyone know where I'm going with this? How about, no, I know you're a shy group, but how about this? Buyer says, I want a lowball. I know prices are going down. I see prices are being reduced. So I want to come in 20%, 10% below where it ought to be because they're on the ropes. No, you see, that's not what's happening, right? It's not that lowball offers are being accepted, because if that were true, the sales to list price ratio would not be 99%. You know, it would be 80 or 85. It wouldn't be 99%. Right. So if you can talk intelligently about some of this stuff, when people ask you about how's the market, they're going to think that you actually know something about real estate. Right. You're improving your chances of the job interview. And by the way, you might want to pick on a couple of statistics. For example, how much did prices go down in LA County? About 5%. Sales went down almost 40%. Although the number of active listings is going up. That's a good sign, right? And sometimes this is because January sales are usually low because you've got November and December, but the listings are starting to pick up because it's the new year. Anyhow, median days on market is 33. It's not too shabby. Now, if you're also saying, well, I don't even know if I can find that part in the California Association of Realtors website. Look for it, right? It's called Housing Market Overview, right? And it's anyhow, Housing Market Overview. There's another site that I oftentimes go to borrow stuff from, it's called Altos reports or Altos Research, and they sell a subscription to something you can put on your website and send out to people and do all that sort of stuff. But they'll let you run a report for free. So for example, sticking with Los Angeles as our example, and how about that looks like Los Angeles. So notice what it is done. This, by the way, is like last week's information, right? And yes, they have a video, which is great. You ought to be watching it. You understand if this should seem logical. If the most likely question a client is going to ask you, from which they're going to judge whether or not they're going to work with you, is how is the market? It would be a good idea for you to know how the market is. I'm just going out on a limb, right? You might want to spend some time to know, right? So what is this telling us? There's still a slight seller's advantage. Look at all these graphs and charts. Now, what I do is I take a screen capture tool and I go and I borrow, maybe, if I'm doing a presentation, I borrow maybe that screenshot. But when I know I'm just talking, I would look at this chart. It tells me what the median price is in Los Angeles right now. Notice I can do zip codes. I can't do counties without paying them. But I can do a lot of stuff for free. You also might have heard there's a website called Redfin. I don't know if you knew about that one. And Redfin, because they have actually a relatively cool site. They don't sell as many properties, but it's a cool site. And up here in the top right, they have a button that says Market Insights, right? Which they really want me to log in. I know you really want me to log in, but up there is Market Insights. I have to click quickly because I didn't want to log in. Market Insights. And so Market Insight is what Redfin says is going on in any local market. Notice their median days on market is different. Right. I don't know who's right, but if you keep looking into the course, you also have access to the multiple listing service, which has graphs and charts and statistics and things like that. You need to know something. And price reductions and transactions falling through is a gauge of how the market is doing, right? If those price reductions are going up and up and up, and transactions are falling through, that means buyers are backing out. That's a sign of the market. I'm showing a strong seller's market. Yeah, it depends on what. Yes, that in my area, I have people from all over California. But yes, in the Bay Area, it's a strong seller's market. That is true. So if we for Sunnyvale, which is where this company is located, but they do this pretty much everywhere. And Sunnyvale is a really strong seller's market. Right? Welcome to Silicon Valley. So how's the market? First of all, you might not want to just jump in and give them a lecture, right? And you say, "Oh, I'm glad you asked. Let me set up my my screen and I'll start projecting here, or here. Look at my tablet. I've got maybe we got to slow down a little bit." Right, before you jump in. So, well, how's the market? Well, it really depends, right? Are you interested in buying, selling, investing, or renting? What do what's your deal? And they're all very different. And which part of the market are you curious about? By the way, I point out to people in my area that the zip code you're in changes the answer to the question. The price range you're in changes the answers to the questions. And by the way, most MLSs allow you to run statistics based on price range. So you will see that some price ranges have actually an increase in sales. Some price ranges have huge decreases in sales. It's not an average thing. So sometimes when you say to them, "So why do you want to know?" Right? What are you looking to do? They just say, "Hey, back off," right? "I'm just curious, I'm not really, I'm just curious." And so one of the, you can keep pushing a little bit. What are you curious about? Curious. Are you curious about the value of your home? Are you curious about the value of your neighborhood? Are you curious about what rent, do you know somebody needs to sell? And if they keep saying, no, I don't need, I'm just, asking the question, is there somebody you're asking for? Who are you asking for? Now, you may not, I'm covering all of the answers. I'm not saying I would do all of that all at once. Sometimes people are just saying it because, it's like, how are the kids? They don't really care. But, how are the kids? Yeah, sometimes that's all it is. But sometimes it is the beginning of a conversation about actually doing something in the real estate business. You don't want to mess it up. Questions that you might ask them. What have you heard about the real estate market? Right. Well, what have you heard about the real estate market? Sometimes people say crazy stuff, just crazy stuff. I hear that they're not building any more homes, or that they have thousands of homes that they're sitting on that they're about to dump. Crazy stuff. Would you mind? That's very interesting. I hadn't heard that. Would you mind sharing where you got that information from? Right. Has anyone taken the time to show you the real data on our local market? All real estate is local. I was having this conversation yesterday with somebody, and I was saying, would you hear about the national market is not California. California is different. And Southern California, in many ways, is different than Northern California, particularly in real estate. And then Silicon Valley is different than Northern California, right? It's still different. So if you're in Fremont, it's not the same thing as Fresno. It's just not, right? So you have to give me more information. What are you looking to do? What are you, because it depends, right? The market sometimes is good for buyers, but not sellers or investors. It depends. How long are you planning on living in this home? That's just a throw out question about, because when we get to some of the objections, one of the things you would want to know is, so how long do you plan on living in this home? The one you may be buying, right? If you were going to buy one, how long? And the answer to that might help us. But they might say, I hear there's going to be a crash, right? This is when they're talking about some of the crazy stuff, right? Oh boy, there's going to be a crash. I think I posted this, that the number of people searching Google for housing market crash in the United States went up like 2,000 and something percent. It's kind of ridiculous. So people might say something like, the market is going to crash, right? I know it is. So I'm waiting to buy because to get a better deal. Now, again, we get back to, where did you get this information from? All right. And I'm not saying that legitimate pundits aren't predicting that there might be a market correction. Most of the reliable ones are not talking about a crash. And the crash of 2008 was caused by fake money, not real estate. And by fake money, we're talking about them making 100% loans to people with stated income and no assets, and just to sell and investors. I mean, it was just crazy. We're not doing that, right? Investors buying from other investors were running up the prices. It was just unique things were going on in 2008. Pricing, whether or not there's going to be a crash, there's this, interrelationship between supply and demand. You may have heard of this before. And if we look at supply, the number of listings in the market today versus the number back in 2008 and 9, there's a drastic difference. There's about 3 to 5 times more listings on the market then than today. The problem, I was there. You might find that hard to believe. I was there back in the 2008 and 2009. We had lots of inventory. Yeah, there a lot of 50% of it was owned by banks, but we had lots of inventory. Today, supply inventory is much lower, right? So supply is lower than it was back then. If we look on the demand side, we have this group called millennials who are reaching the home buying peak years. The number of and percentage of millennials relative to society is greater than the number of and percentage of baby boomers at the time they were booming. There's more millennials. So we have a reduced supply, but an increasing demand. Ever hear the line, buy land? They're not making any more of it. So people are buying houses. There are just not enough houses to buy. Right? Our problem is oftentimes more of inventory. If you look, there's higher demand if you look just at the demographics of society and all that. So when somebody says, well, you know, I'm going to wait, right, because prices are going to drop, interest rates are too high, you know, ask them, what event has to happen for them to purchase a home? So, in other words, if they say, well, interest rates are too high, right, I'm going to wait to buy a home. All right, so when interest rates get down to 6.5, would you buy a home then? 6.25. I mean, is there a number you got in mind, you know? Now, I also would always ask when people are making objections like this for them to explain, right, why, you know, why that number, why? And if they say, well, if interest rates are too high, I can't afford to buy anything, well, have you looked at alternative? Do you know how much you can afford to buy? Right, maybe we could just look at that, because later you could always refinance and lower your interest rates. But if they say prices have to drop or interest rates have to drop, how much? What is the what is the target here? What has to happen before you're ready to buy? If they're renting, well, if you're renting, you're spending all your money on rent. You're not growing equity. At least if you buy a house, you're putting equity away every month. If interest rates are high, you need to pick the house you can afford with the current rates. If rates go down, you can refinance it. If you're waiting for the market to crash, that's unlikely to happen. Even if there's a recession, prices generally go up during recessions, not down. Prices don't necessarily drop. And by the way, there's another place that I get information that I share. It's called Keeping Current Matters on KCM. And I have a subscription. If you find me on LinkedIn, you can see all the Keeping Current Matters. And not equal. I see if I can find it easily. History proves recession does not equal a housing crisis. And so they have little infographics and things like that. And what they do is they show that during the home prices, how in the last 6 times we had a recession. It is true that in 2008, prices went down, but there were other weird things going on. 1991, prices went down a bit, but in all of the other recessions, prices actually went up, even when we were having a recession. So if you're going to say, well, I'm going to wait because I think there's a recession and then I'll get a good deal, you're assuming that a recession equals a price drop. But that's not historically the case. So interest rates are too high. This is some more information I put in. I have some, you know, I know we've already talked a little bit about it. They are historically low. They are historically low. The average interest rate since the 1970s is higher than it is today. Old, don't you hate it when old, you know, the old real estate agents are saying, I remember when we didn't have the MLS, you know, that sort of thing. Well, there was a time in California when I was doing, you know, classes like this on real estate financing and things, and I would use 8% as the standard interest rate, 8%. There's videos of me doing real estate stuff, talking about 8% interest rates. They were higher than that at a time. But of course, it's gone up from 3. I'm not saying it didn't. The cost of waiting, if interest rates drop 1%, but home prices increase 5%, how are you doing? How are you doing? All right, you may not, it may not be helpful. You could talk about the impact of rising home prices, which is sort of this. In competitive market, they often sell quickly. That's still true and above list price. There are other solutions. One other reason that you need a good loan agent is because there are hybrid arms, 7-1, 5-1, 10-1 arms, which are fixed rate for 5, 7, 10 years. That's why you might ask somebody, well, how long do you plan on living there? Right? Because those interest rates are significantly lower. My goal with buyers is to get them to talk to my loan agent as soon as possible and try not to answer all the questions. I've actually done this before, but Jody is better at answering buyer questions about this kind of stuff than I am, because she does it over and over and over and over again every day. Right? And has gotten good at it, better than me. You've heard the line, you marry the house, but date the interest rate. And the thing that I add to that is, if you wait for interest rate, the standard way you handle an objection is you say, this is called feel, felt, found. I understand how you feel. I really do. Right? And you see, this is called the cushion. Right? Because if somebody says, well, I'm going to wait for interest rates to drop, and I say, well, that's a stupid idea. Really, what a moron. See, we're probably in a confrontive relationship at that point. But if I say to them, well, I understand how you feel. By the way, many buyers, prospective buyers, feel exactly the same way you do. See, the cushion, right? Now they're like, oh, he's not going to call me names, right? But this is what they found. Many people are thinking like that. So when interest rates, so they're all on the fence. And when interest rates do go down, they're all going to start to want to buy a home at once, but inventory is going to be low because people aren't buying as much right now. And so when this whole herd starts to move, there's all of a sudden competition, prices are rising, and missing the timing of that can cost you $100,000, right? Because all these people are out there waiting for the same thing. So yes, interest rates could be lower in the future, and there's going to be more competition if you're buying in that market. Now, 38% of all of the sellers have lowered their price. They're willing to give credits. They're willing to fix stuff. They're willing to negotiate. Interest rates go down, demand goes up. That all goes away, right? That all goes away. So what would you rather have? A 4% interest rate? But have multiple offers to compete with and pay $100,000 over list price, $50,000 over list price? Is that what or would you rather have a 6.5% interest rate, which you can refinance later, but be able to bargain and negotiate a good deal when buying a home? Which would be better? So these came from Jody. And she's going to give her spin on this, plus some extra stuff that she has later. Rates are too high. I can't afford to buy right now. What do you mean? What does too high mean? Again, that's similar to mine. What would be, what would it have to change to? Rates are definitely higher now than the beginning. So is rent. They're up 7 to 10%. I can't afford 7%. Most of them aren't, actually. And again, you want them to talk to the loan agent, because the loan agent is going to be better at the conversation probably. And this is not something you want to blow, right? If you mess this up and they're going, yeah, well, I'm going to, remember, this is your job interview. I'll wait for them to go down. It's probably not going to happen. We think alike, because we still have the supply and demand thing. When rates go back down, even more buyers hit the market, prices are going to go up. It's hard to get a loan. Again, talk to a loan agent. Finances have taken a hit. I had all my money in crypto. Oh my gosh. And Tesla, right? All my money was in Tesla stock. Now what? Well, you might be, again, they need to talk to a loan agent. Now, and yes, this will be posted on YouTube. Be sure on YouTube to hit the like button and the blue notifications button and share it with your friends. All right. Sometimes we get into a conversation with sellers about selling their house, and they have, well, objections. And the objection usually is, I don't want to sell my house because I don't have to. And if I did sell my house, I would have to buy another house. And right now, I don't want to buy another house because all of the stuff that we've been covering so far, because interest rates are too high, right? So I don't want to sell my house right now because if I wanted to buy a house, I have a 3% interest rate loan now, and I'm going to end up with a 7% interest rate loan, and I just don't want to do it, right? That sort of thing. So it's true that home prices may have dropped in some areas, right? Remember, you ought to know that. But dropped from where? From last year, maybe. But if you look at just 2 years, I mean, it went way up. It went up 20% in California, 16% in a year. So right now, however, there's less competition. Right, we're starting to see some more listings, but the ratio of how many homes are on the market and that sort of thing compared to past years is very, very low. And the buyers out there that are buying right now are motivated because they're willing to buy at high interest rates. They want to buy a house, right? They're not going to wait and sit on the fence. Also, spring and summer are the times of the year that people are likely to go out and buy. We might want to take advantage of the seasonal trend. And even though they are have dropped in some areas, they could also rebound in the future. By listing a home now, sellers could potentially sell property before prices drop or wait for prices to rebound in the future. That's one of the two. And I'm going to talk about that because, again, and I know this may seem hypocritical, but why would a seller not want to wait? And the reality is nobody knows the future, right? I don't know the future, at least. And so are we certain that there's no way that there's going to be a recession? Are we certain that everything's going to be rosy? Do we know for sure that prices are going to rise in the future? And the answer is no, we don't really know that. So all of those fears, which are being fed, on the internet, that buyers have about a housing crash and a housing bubble, are things that a seller might want to think about. The searching for real estate market crash went up 284% recently. It was up more before. If interest rates do go up, it's going to lower demand, making it harder to sell your house in the future. Because if interest rates go up, the purchasing power goes down and buyers can't afford as much. Those who can leave for less expensive areas, which again means there's less demand for your house because you're in a really nice but expensive neighborhood and people are leaving neighborhoods like that, which means there's less demand, which means in the future you might get less. The last time we had a correction in the real estate market was back in 2008 and 2009. Prices dropped 27% and took 12 years to recover. Do you want to take a risk that that's not going to happen? Right? We don't know what the market is going to be like in 6 months or 6 years. But I can tell you what the market is like now. And right now, in Los Angeles, it is still a seller's market. Remember the chart? Right now, in Silicon Valley, it is still a seller's market. Now, will it be that way in the future? We do not know. So what about, what about I got a 3% loan? And if I sell and then I buy another house, I'm going to have to get another loan, and that other loan is going to be twice as much, and I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. I won't do it. I can't do it. All right. So first question is, where are you planning on moving to? Now, the reason why that question is really important is because of price range. Price range. And what I mean by price range is, are they going to be moving to an area where we can get and find FHA and VA loans? First of all, for the VA, I would ask if the buyer is a veteran. The person who's thinking of selling their home and moving, are they a veteran? If not, then we forget the VA part. But if they are not a veteran and they're saying, so where are you moving to? Well, we've been thinking of moving to, Fallon, Nevada. We're going to go to Fallon, Nevada. Oh, okay, Fallon, Nevada. So if I could find you a house in Fallon, Nevada, with a 3 to 4% loan that you could assume, would you be interested in it? Now, we can search in most MLSs for type of financing. You can search sometimes, but you can search. And so they will, what listing agents are supposed to do, but they're not perfect, is if the listing has an FHA loan, which is an assumable loan. See, many loans have something called an alienation clause, known in the biz as a due on sale clause, which is a clause that says if you transfer the title of the property to someone else, you got to pay off your loan. But FHA and VA loans by law do not have those clauses, which means somebody from San Jose who's moving to an area. See, we don't have very many FHA loans in San Jose because of the price. Right? There's a price limit, but if we're moving to Fallon, Nevada, we're under that limit. So we can find properties on the market with assumable loans. Would that be okay? Would that allow you to move forward? And if they say, well, what if none of the properties on the market have assumable FHA loans? You say, well, that's why you need me to represent you. Because what I'm going to do is my team is going to call, we're going to get a list of all the people in Fallon, Nevada who currently own a property and have an FHA loan. Do you guys know that's not a difficult list to get, right? And once we get that list, we're going to do skip tracing, which means we're going to, see if the people that are on that list are somebody that we could, connect with. And then we're going to ask those people that have those loans that are in the right area, if they've ever considered selling it, that we have a buyer coming in from out of state, which would give you the opportunity of two sides, because you could refer it once you found somebody in Fallon, Nevada, that wants to do this. You could partner with a local agent of Yanks, and we could handle all that, and you could get a referral fee. Does everybody see where I'm going? A big referral fee. So we might be able to find you a loan at the same or close to interest rate of the one you have now. Should we look for it? What I've found over the years is that if somebody finds a house and they really like it, a lot of these objections go away. You see, when you're talking to them at the coffee shop, buying a house is an abstract concept, right? It's abstract. But when you give them this is the way it could work, are you willing to, look at that and focus, and they start looking and they find a house that's what they're looking for. They see their dream home and they say, wow, that's what we want to do. Now they're going to want to sell, right? And now the interest rate thing is not going to bother them so much. Does everybody understand? Because you found them the home they were looking for, which is what's necessary to motivate them to move forward. Any questions, thoughts, criticisms, suggestions? This is an audience participation opportunity. How can we get that list? So I believe that even RPR will search the county records for a given area. And in the county, there's a way to, one of the fields could be if it's an FHA or VA loan. Realist is a program that would allow you to do that. And most title companies, if you asked nicely, if you could get a printout of everybody in Fallon, Nevada with an FHA loan, they would be able to do it, spit it out, and send it to you. And by the way, if you Google searched, how do I get a list of property owners with FHA and VA loans, you will find services that for a small fee would be happy to do that for you. Property Radar, PropStream are others. Because if everybody else says, no, we don't do that, Property Radar, PropStream, there are software out there that would do that. Yeah. Anything else? How are we doing? Was that concentrate on this for a while. What I'm thinking is don't fail the job interview. Right? Market knowledge will allow you to compete with the experienced agent. Now, Stephanie wants to know, why would we want an FHA VA loan list and the benefits of the, Stephanie, what I'm going on is when somebody says, I don't want to sell my home because I currently have a loan less than 4% interest, and I'd have to buy another house and get a loan at 7% interest. And I don't want to do that. So where would we be able to find houses with loans under 4%? Where a buyer could assume the existing loan. And although this isn't 100% true, but in a way, how about this? FHA and VA loans do not have due on sale clauses, which means their loans can be assumed, FHA and VA. So if the person in California is a veteran, they can assume another veteran's VA loan, which is probably at a lot lower rate of interest than today's market. If they're not a veteran, they could assume any FHA loan that they're qualified for. And the reason in Silicon Valley we don't do as many FHA loans is because the maximum price is in the 700,000s. Right? But FHA is assumable. Right? And so, also, the software that searches the public records can identify property owners that have FHA loans. Here's all the people in, San Jose with, oh, not in San Jose. Here's all the people in Elk Grove, and that have an FHA loan, and you could contact them and say, hey, do you want to sell? I have a buyer. 2 transactions, get a second leg in that transaction. All right. Anything else? Oh, we're done a little bit early, which is probably a good thing. Oh, usually I go on too long. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your showing up. I see the market is picking up, although I'm mad that no one has sold one of my listings, but we'll work on that. If you're interested in talking about coaching or how to develop a business plan and increase your business, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about real estate. Bye, everyone.